Hello and welcome to e-luminate. My name is Madeline Peters. Our topic today is the myth of Mars and Venus. And our guest is Dr. Mohammed El Majdoubi, who's a professor of neuroscience at Dominican University of California here in San Rafael. Mohammed, thank you so much for being here. And you're going to explain in segments the very complex structure of the difference between men and women and the similarities. But why don't I just turn this over to you and we look at the genetics of men and women, boys and girls.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Madeline. I'm always honored and humbled and to participate with you in this show and through the Soul Optimist International. This is our 10th anniversary of the first show we did together in 2008, I guess. The topic today is the myth of men are coming from Mars and women from Venus through the lens of neuroscience this time. So let me tell you first what got me interested in this topic. I grew up in Morocco. I did my graduate studies in France. I got a PhD in neuroscience and pharmacology from the University of Bordeaux. And throughout my postdoctoral training in the United States, both at the University of Pittsburgh Medical School and University of California in San Francisco, I studied focused on the neuroendocrine system. Now, the neuroendocrine system is the neuro comes from brain, and endocrine has to do with hormones. It's basically the study of hormones that are secreted from our brain and control our body, but also the feedback of the hormones secreted by our body and how they impact our brain. And I also studied that in the context of lactation, in the context of reproduction, in the context of puberty. And so a few years later, I joined Dominican University of California as a professor of neuroscience, got married and had 3 kids. Layla is 10, Nina is 13, and then Zach is 7. And so when I'm playing with them, I always observe that I've been seeing them growing up day after day. I always realize that they innately choose different ways of playing. Systematically, Zach is into wheels, trucks, and garbage trucks, and cement trucks, and police trucks, and airplanes, and trains, and everything that has wheels. Nina and Layla were mostly like very laid back dolls, doing things, the drawing things, making clothes for their little dolls, but nothing, no tumbling kind of play that what Zach would do. And so I've been seeing these kids growing up, and I know that we always made sure at home to give them a gender-neutral education. But still, here I am looking at them playing, and they basically are 2 different species when it comes to playing. So I had read the book that men come from Mars and women from Venus, so I was wondering whether my kids are actually coming from 2 different planets. We know we have some kind of dust from the stars in us, so maybe the dust that made Nina and Layla came from Venus, and the dust that made Zach came from Mars. So I went on to use my neuroscience background to understand a little bit what's the major difference. Is there any difference in the brain of these 2 kids, and whether the behavior can actually be explained by something under the hood, under your scalp? First, to understand how we become males and females, you have to understand one thing, simple. The simple thing is that the only difference there is in every level of any species between males and females is actually 1 chromosome and 1 chromosome only. Take the example of a human being. We have 46 chromosomes, all of them almost identical, except for 1. In the female, the sex chromosome are an X and X, 2 copies. in a male, there is one X chromosome and there is one little, the smallest of all chromosomes, the one that actually contains the least genes, and that's the Y chromosome. So everything we know about the difference between males and females is due to one and one chromosome only. So what does that chromosome do? That chromosome is the only job it does really is to masculinize the baby's body to become a boy. So let's say at the onset of pregnancy, the default is that we are all born girls. And we have a body that can go one way or another. Now, if you're a girl, you don't have a Y chromosome, you don't have any changes, you're gonna stay in the default and you're gonna be born as a female. If you're a boy, your Y chromosome is gonna interfere with that. Y chromosome is gonna actually masculinize the sex organs, that they're gonna turn into a male sex organs instead of female sex organs. And the second thing is that it's gonna allow the secretion of testosterone. Testosterone is actually the male hormone. Testosterone will not only impact the genitalia of a baby boy, but it's also gonna go into masculinize the brain of this little boy. And we call it an androgenization. And so in the end, you had testosterone or you don't. If you're a boy with testosterone, your female body is going to be masculinized and you're born a boy. And one of the proof that we were females is the fact that boys are still born with nipples, which shows that at some point we had the material necessary to become one way or another. The second part is that without the testosterone, the baby is born as default, and that will be a female versus a male baby. So this is how we're born, and this is what the nature or the biology and the genetics of what tends to send us one way or another, and it's very simple. So that's the nature. Now let's see, after birth, nature is not the only factor to be taken into account, because we have to take something else into account, the environment in which we grow.
Well, Mohammed, thank you very much for establishing the groundwork on the genetics of the genetics involved in the boys and girls and men and women. My name is Madeline Peters. This is e-luminate. Our guest today is Dr. Mohammed El-Majdoubi, and thank you very much.